right. Hi, everyone. Hey, Colleen. Hey, folks joining me virtually, I guess. Welcome to Automate All the Things. Today, I was supposed to have Carol Griffin talk to us about Zapier. We had, a scheduling snafu. Life is complicated, but I'm really excited to kind of style an Algolia Instant Search. So if you're new here, every week on Automate All the Things, I usually bring a guest on, and that guest teaches us something. We had Chuck on a couple of weeks ago who taught us how to add instant search to any Webflow website, but we had left out the styling part. And so today we're going to kind of come back on that and style it directly in Webflow using Webflow itself. Shout out to Ben Parker and Matthew, who kind of gave me the key of how to do this. So yeah, if you're new here, welcome to Automate All Things. I'm extremely excited to have you here. Say hello in the chat. I already see Penny and Colleen in the chat. Welcome, Penny. Always happy to have you here. Colleen, same thing. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit different than what we usually do in that there are two challenges. One, I don't have a guest teaching me, and I'm trying to do something that I would say I'm about 45 to 50% sure I'm able to do. But let's jump in here. Again, if you're new here, drop a hello in the chat. Hey, Steven, good to see you. It's been a while. How have you been? Excited to have you here. Yeah, really excited. We're going to be working with some custom CSS code. I've got a great design from FinSuite that we're going to implement. So yeah, let's just jump in. I'm going to take it much more chill than I usually do, and drop any questions you have in the chat. Let's kick this off. Okay. Wow, it's weird not to have a guest on the stream. It's been a while, but I'm super excited for this. Cool. So 2 weeks ago with Chuck, we had implemented this Algolia search. So if you go ahead and search for Airtable, you'll notice that it searches every single stream I've ever done. If you didn't watch that stream, go back and watch it. Step-by-step instructions on how to do this. But we had left out the styling part. So luckily, I have the amazing partners in FinSuite gave me a style to reproduce here. So this is what we're hoping to reproduce. So this little search bar at the top, yellow background, a little different than what we have today. Whoops, there we go. It's slightly different. And then we want the results to look like this. So much more simple style. And so our goal for the next about 50 minutes is to watch me just attempt to write custom CSS. But our first step is actually going to be, how can we bring this right into Webflow so that I can style it in Webflow and render what that looks like, so that I don't have to write custom CSS, publish the website, go see my website, see what it looks like. And there are kind of two insights that you need to know in order to do this. So what our goal is to bring this right here into a Webflow page. Let's go here. I already have it kind of set up. And to go ahead and write custom CSS in the Webflow designer so it instantly renders, and that way we can see our changes. So we're going to recreate what I did right here. That's going to be about the first 10 minutes, and then we're going to start styling it to make it look more like this. Now, again, this is a huge risk for me because it's two things I know very little about: design and CSS, but hopefully we're going to be able to at least start and get it up and running and write some code. And style it. So at least if you are a good designer, you'll be able to style it however you want. Cool. Does that make sense? Let me know if I should spend a little more time recapping how we got here from the stream with Chuck, or if everyone's super comfortable and we kind of jump in. So as I mentioned, step one is to go ahead and bring this into Webflow so we can create. So I'm gonna call this Algolia 2, just because I already have that page. And so there are two insights that kind of unlock this for me. The first is that if you implement CSS into the designer, it'll render that CSS in the designer, right? So that's the first one. So if you import custom CSS, it's going to render it. Same thing for HTML. So if you import HTML into the designer, it's going to render it as well. So the reason when we implemented Algolia Search, if I go to all home new here, my new homepage, you'll see that it says this script embed will only appear on the published exported site. That is because there's a script tag, and that script tag will not render in the designer. It will only render on a publish site. That is not true for CSS and HTML. So our first step is to import the CSS and HTML of the Webflow Algolia live, I guess, search into Webflow so we can start styling it. So let me go into this Algolia new. Okay, so we want to do two things. We want to embed the CSS and we want to go ahead and embed the HTML. So first, let's start with the CSS. Now, what I did here before the stream, so yeah, Stephen, this is a little nostalgic for me as well. It's been a while since I've done a solo stream. I'm feeling very naked. So here I have all of the CSS that is automatically added in Algolia. So our goal first is to embed this into our Webflow website. Now, I know it's a little small, but it doesn't really matter. Our goal is just to embed it. So let's go ahead and add an HTML embed. HTML embed. Here we go. And let's just copy paste the whole thing. Now there's going to be a little issue here that I'm aware of, which is there's a 10,000 character limit. So we need to go 10,000 characters at a time. So a little annoying, but that's totally fine. Let's go ahead and grab the first 10,000 here. So usually VS Code will tell me how many characters I have selected, maybe a little less. 11,000. Let me start from the top. That actually makes more sense. You guys can't see it. Wait, let me just boom. There we go. We have the character count. Super boring stuff. And apologies, I should have done this right before the stream. Okay. Let's go till here. A panel styled. So these are all the class styling that comes natively with Algolia. So when you include the style sheet, this is what's included. So let's go ahead and open a style tag. Let's paste. Let's close that style tag. And now we have those first 10,000 characters. Save. And I'm just going to name this Algolia CSS1 so we can differentiate between the different things that we include. There we go. Next, we're just going to do that again. Another HTML embed. Now, again, shout out to, I banged my head against the wall trying to make this work yesterday, but luckily Matthew helped me out. Oh, hey, Victoria. Good to see you. How are you? Yeah, there's a 10,000 character limit on code embeds, but you can break it up. You can break it up. Here we go. Let's go until here. Let's paste that, copy that. Let's go style. Now I feel a lot more pressure that Victoria is here. Not that I didn't feel pressure about everyone else being here, but oops. Okay, save and close. Okay, we're gonna call this Algolia CSS2, just so we can nicely identify them in the little panel here. And then hopefully, I think this should be the last one. Let's go to the, yeah, awesome. Here we go. Okay, we're almost at the point where this makes sense, right? We're just including the CSS natively. And the reason we're doing that, oops, I forgot the style, is because we want the styles to render in the designer itself. Okay, there we go. Let's save and close. And this is going to be Algolia CSS3. Okay, so far doesn't really make sense what's going on. Now we want to go ahead and include the HTML as well, right? And the goal for that is that once we have the HTML and the CSS in the code embeds in Webflow, we're going to be able to see what our custom CSS does to the actual instant search. So I'm going to go into inspect. And actually, let me remove this. Let's keep that. Now I know this is going to be a little bit weird and small, but I'm going to go ahead and take the whole instant search, which is detached overlay. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to include it in HTML embed. So there we go. I'm going to paste that. And this, ideally, if it works properly, is going to render what we just saw styled correctly in the Webflow. So fingers crossed that this works. Save and close. Here we go. Okay, cool. So there's some issues with like the way images are rendered. I'm not sure why, but overall, I think we have it here. So here I have the exact same style that I have right here. So now if I add custom CSS on top in a separate HTML embed around the different classes for this, I can now style my search box. Does that make sense? Right? So now we can actually go ahead and target different classes and style them appropriately to get to something that looks a little closer to this, right? So I can go ahead and hide this right here. I can remove the cancel. I can remove the padding over here. So our challenge is going to be, how do we identify the classes that each of these kind of parts are in our style? But that's going to be relatively doable because I can just target those classes in the live version, right? So I can do detached form container, and then I could say, okay, well, that I want to have 0 padding or something like that. And then we can style it, include those custom CSS classes, the custom CSS styling in our final project. And ideally, fingers crossed, we're going to have a nice Algolia Instant Search. So Colleen asks, are you going to keep that embed long-term? You don't necessarily have mobile or other code. No, so our goal is only to render it once so we can see what our custom CSS does to the Algolia embed. And then from there, we should be able to just include those custom CSS classes. Now, a good question is, what does this look like on mobile rendered in the designer? I'm not sure. No, it doesn't look the way that you'd expect. But again, the changes we're going to make are relatively simple. We're mainly going to, change the background color and, remove a few elements and things like that. And then we're going to see what it looks like live with those custom CSS classes applied. Let me know if that makes sense. We're going to give this a try, see what works, what doesn't. Cool. Whew. Oh man, solo streaming. Good thing I don't do this that often anymore. It's very stressful. Okay. So now that we have that rendered in our Webflow, let's go ahead and try to get closer to at least what this looks like. So I can see that there's a little search at the end. Let's remove this cancel. Let's make this full screen. Let's remove this X. And let's see whether we can remove this little icon here as well. So those are the different elements that we want to change. With a little bit of custom CSS, we're going to be able to see those changes and the impact on it directly in Webflow, if I got this right. So first, let's remove this cancel. So if I go here and I inspect the cancel, I see that the cancel right here is button type button, and the class is AATT cancel button. So our goal is to go ahead and hide this. So if I go, the outcome I want is this. So let me just remove that, right? We want it to look more like this. So I need to make display none on the class AATT cancel button. So I'm going to paste that. I'm going to go over to Webflow. I'm going to add another embed. And we're going to say this is a style sheet. And then /style. And again, if there are any CSS pros here, first, I apologize for my lack of CSS knowledge, and I would love for you to give me tips in the chat. So dot, which is targeting that class, and then we're saying, okay, whoops, I got a new keyboard, so this might be a little bit tricky. Display. It's going to be this right here, none. And let's go ahead and close that. I think that should work like that. And ideally, if this worked properly, we should see this cancel disappear. Oh, Matthew's here. Yes, Matthew, I might have some questions. Good that you're here. Okay, that actually worked properly. So we see that it disappears. We're gonna do the same thing with the X and this little icon right here. And then we're gonna get a little bit closer to our styling, which is here. So this one looks a little narrower than what we currently have. Also has a yellow background, darker outline. So those are all things we can kind of get to. So next step we're gonna do is remove this icon to the right. Inspect. Let's get the whole thing. Input wrapper fixer. Let's remove that. Yep, that looks about right. And I think maybe a better way of targeting it might be if there's a little submit. What if I just remove the submit node? That just removes the icon. And what if it's here? That we might still have an input wrapper prefix. So let's go ahead and remove the class AA label. No, that doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. So input wrapper prefix. Let's remove that one. I worry that if I remove a label, it might, break some stuff in the rest. So let's remove a input wrapper prefix. And similar to before, let's go into our HTML embed. Oh, I have to click on settings here. It's a little annoying. Okay. And same thing. Let's remove that one. Let me know if this is making sense, And then display none. And let's close this. And our hope is that, okay, yeah. Now we need to add some padding here on the left for the search for the search AATT, right? And then remove this on the right. Yeah, so I can't, one of the challenges here, and that's a great question, Colleen, is like, I can't use the style here, right? Because unfortunately, this is actually a little tricky. So first thing, let me call this custom CSS. That way we can identify it a little, custom CSS. There we go. And let's close that. And the reason I can't use just normal styles and just say, okay, let's take loading indicator and make that display none, is that you'll notice that these are capitalized loading indicator, and CSS classes are case sensitive, whereas Webflow exports classes as all lowercase. And so if you were to style it in the style panel, even though Webflow will export that CSS in your project, because of the case sensitivity of CSS, your styles won't apply to the Algolia Instant Search. So small pro tip there that I had to learn the hard way yesterday. But yeah, absolutely. We can totally use Chrome itself to apply our styles. And that's what I'll actually do at the end. We're going to go and take our custom CSS and we're going to go ahead and add this to Chrome to see what our final product will be, because there's a few steps we need to do in Webflow in order to do that. Okay, so let's speed up here. I'm like 20 minutes in and I feel like I've only been doing display none. Okay, so we want to add some padding before our search AATT, right? So this right here. So let me inspect that. Let's see where that is. And that is AA input wrapper. So actually, let's go ahead and do what you mentioned, Colleen. That's a good point. Let's go into the elements. I think I can go into filter and I can see if there's a padding. And I could say, okay, let's give padding left. It's always a little tricky to get these. Can I just type? Okay, let me just give it a kind of separate style here. Padding left. Oh, very frustrating. left 10 pixels. Yeah. And so it moves it to the left, but this is this to the element. And what we want is to apply it to the class, which will be input wrapper. And you can see the style there. So let's go ahead and replicate that. Boom, boom, boom. Nope, that's the wrong CSS, custom CSS. And then here, we're essentially saying, okay, here, let's go padding left 10 pixels. Now for rem lovers, I'm sorry, we're just gonna try to do this simply as possible, like that. Save and close. And we see that it's a little to the side there. So that's what we want. Okay, we're getting a little closer here. So we see that there's a little border radius here on our input, right? So we want to go ahead and make that square if we want to get closer to the design. Let me zoom in here a little bit. So we want to make our search bar square. Now there's already styling to make it, you know, rounded, but we're going to overwrite that styling. So let's go back here. Let's see what is the class. So AA form. And I could see, do I have some radius? Oh, press enter to get into it. Okay, thanks for that tip. That's awesome. And then so there, we see that there's some root variables that we'll be able to change a little later. So background color, input color. So we'll do that in a moment, but border radius. Okay, what do we call that? We call that radius. Okay, so we want this to be 0. Yeah, okay, that's what we want. So we want border radius 0 pixels. So let's paste that. And we want that on a form. Okay, Matthew, I'm gonna do your tip custom CSS, press enter. Nice, thank you. It was very frustrating for me too. Okay, so a form. Let's go ahead and set border. Isn't it like the old days, Matthew, where it's just, you know, us and a few people watching me struggle with CSS on the stream? Those were the fun days. Border radius 0 pixels. 0 pixels. There we go. I'm missing a semicolon. And I wonder if I'm going to need important here. No, okay, so it gives me that border radius. So that's all good to go. That's looking good. Now you'll notice the search is a little higher. So the height of our search feels a little higher there. Yeah, those were the good times. So let's go see where it gets the height of a form. So height. So it seems like we have line height 1 EM, border input color. Maybe it gets it from, okay, so we're seeing, okay, so there's some text here, there's some border here. Okay, so it just gets it from the text itself. So we got to make that a little larger. And I think in the root, so root is essentially, if you see here, root are those variables where that get reused. So if you want to go ahead and set some default properties, you can go ahead and change root, right? So it says a font family is inherent, means that it's going to inherit whatever the body has as a font. Now let me see if I can get larger spacing on the root. So let's go into root here and let me see if I could do, there was an EM somewhere here, I think. So if we go here and we go into the computed, yeah, exactly. So correct me if I'm wrong here, Matthew, but the root in this case is saying, here are kind of the defaults for the namespace of Algolia, right? So if we go here to styles, this is setting some default properties, right, at the root of the page. And you'll notice that it always starts with AA. And that's essentially saying that these are variables that are specific to Algolia Instant Search that you can reuse. Okay, so search input height. Here we go. So let's go to the root in our Webflow web kind of, I wonder if I could let's try to overwrite, let's create our own root and see if it'll overwrite Algolia's or if we have to make these changes in the root that we've already embedded. So let's go here, CSS variables or style tokens. Awesome. Yeah. Matthew's got the right way of saying this. So let's go into custom CSS, press enter. And then what we want is, I think it's dash root. Let's see how it's spelled here. No, yeah, it's not dash, it's root. And essentially what we're saying here is we want AA form. That I copy paste the wrong thing right here. This to be higher. So let's copy paste that root, and we want this maybe 70 pixels. Let's close out those brackets like that. Let's save and close, and we see it's a little larger. So let me see what the actual height is here. 115. That feels a little too high. So I think this, the way we have it right now, is actually pretty good, right? Okay, what else do we have here? So you'll notice that there's no margin around. So there's no little space between. So let's go see where that space is coming from. It seems to be coming from here. So yeah, this padding of 8 comes from detach form container. So we need to set that. I think we've already set styling on detach form container. So let's go see if we already have that. Detach form. Okay, we have not. So we had detach cancel button. Fun stuff, CSS. All right. It was actually really fun. I really enjoy this. And I'm sure that anyone who actually understands CSS, there's probably knows I'm not doing this the right way. So let me know. Padding 0 pixels and then semicolon like that. Okay, that didn't seem to work. So padding, what did not do correctly? Detach form container. Detach form container here. And let's go into styles and go into padding. Let's see if we set it. Okay, so it says var spacing half. What if I set this to 0? So it seems like that one is overridden by this one here. And if we set this one to 0, okay. So it seems like we have two options. We can either go to the root and change a spacing half, which is a calculation. So this is essentially saying we're going to take half of the spacing of 16, and 16 looks to be our, if we go to the root, base unit. So I don't want to set the base unit to 0. So I think what I could do here is essentially make this more important by doing important like that. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the solution here. There we go. Okay. All right. I'm excited now. I wasn't expecting to get this far. So this is awesome. Let me close that. Okay, so we've just essentially said we could either change the roots, which would say our spacing is 0 just for this specific, because we don't want any, but that's not what we want, right? We're getting a little bit closer. I can still see that there's some radius here. So I don't know where that's coming from, but we can change that at the end. We're getting much closer here. So the next thing that we want is a yellow, kind of a a almost yellow background here. FFCD. And let's see where the background of that input comes from. Okay. So let's go back here. Let's go to the inspect. We're essentially coming to the AA form. And let's see where background color is coming from. So it seems to be over red. So we have these two variables, which are input background color RGB and input background color alpha. So those are root variables. I think it's safe to change these in our root, in our kind of root that we're overriding for Algolia's root, and change these to what we want our input background color to be. So let's go back here. Let's go here. Let's go into custom CSS. And then in the root, we have two more variables that we want to change. We want to change, let me see if I can select that. There we go. So now it's defaulting to white. And what we want this to be, like that, is, let's go to Figma. Now this is giving me as a hex. I need this as RGB 255, 255, 205. So I think it's 255, 255, 205, 255, 255, 205. Okay, awesome. All right, let's do like that. And let's set background color alpha to 1. So let's copy paste that and we'll play around with it a little bit, see what looks good. Okay, how are we feeling about this? Yeah, you know, trying to establish my credibility a little bit here as a designer somewhat. Implementer, I would say, is closer to what I would like to be. Okay, let's save and close. So what we're essentially saying is we want our input background color. This is a variable, you know, a CSS style token. Okay, that actually looks pretty good. That's actually, okay, that's perfect. That's what we want. And then, okay, so we are actually pretty close to this. Don't think I'm going to be able to implement this little icon here because I think it'll take some JavaScript to do that where I have to append it. But we can remove this X, right? So it'll just be a flat, and then eventually we can add this little circle. So last thing we want to kind of change here is the input wrapper suffix. Let's go into our HTML. Oh yeah, and this is gonna go on my live website, Colleen. So this is super exciting, and I'm really excited for people to like be able to search and make it look good. I'm super, super excited about that, and hopefully this will help some people use this as well. So let's go here. I want to display none. Whoops, I copy pasted the whole thing. I just want wrapper suffix like that. And we want to do display none here. Yeah, learning how to type and learning how to code on a new keyboard is two completely different things. I feel like I can type well on this keyboard, but coding is it's a different story. Okay, all right, this is looking pretty good. I'm gonna tackle those little borders here at the end. I think they come from, actually, yeah, let's give it a try. So these little border radiuses, I think come from the whole, let's see where those are coming from. So if we go here, detached container we changed. And I think here there's a combo class of detached container and detached container modal to be able, we want to remove the radius here. We want to put it to 0. Yeah, so we have a border radius of 6. Oh, I can add the search icon using the after pseudo element. So I would have to have the SVG and just copy paste that SVG into the, oh no, I can add it using CSS. How would I add it using CSS, Matthew? Not sure how I would do that. Or would I have to add it using HTML? or even like a little JavaScript to say like just insert that little search. While we talk about that, let's implement this little border radius to 0, which is detached container. So this is a combo class. So we're essentially going to go here, and we're saying when both of these classes are together, so dot, and I might have to do important here. I'm not sure. Let's check it out. I want the border radius to be 0. And let's save and close. Okay, that did not work as I expected. Okay, yeah, I could use source equal SVG URL. Okay, that makes sense. Let's see if I need an important here. Oh no, I just misspelled it. I think that's better. Let's see if that works. No, that didn't work either. So maybe I do need an important here. Okay, that didn't work either. So we're gonna drop it, and doesn't seem, well, actually, let's give it a try. So if I set border radius of this whole thing to 0, that does seem to work here, right? So I'm saying in these two classes, if I set border radius to 0, we should get that square vibe that we're going after. So let me see if I made a mistake here. So I'm saying that is the right class. Modal, set border radius to 0 pixels, and set that as important. This does seem right to me. Oh, I only need the second class? Oh, why is that? That's interesting. Oh, because okay, I see what you mean. I don't need to say, okay, I don't need to target the combo class. I can just say, if anything has this, go ahead and set border radius to 0. Okay, that makes sense. That's awesome. Thanks, Matthew, for that fix. Okay, now we're actually pretty close. There's some shadow here, but I'll eventually remove that. And I think we are good to go. Now I think the next step is that you'll notice in the design, the background for the overlay itself is much whiter. So this gives me like a little gray that is a little frightening, to be honest. So in the detached overlay, I think that's where it's coming from. And if we go background here, I think, let's go to styles. There's no radius. So it's saying background color, AA overlay color RGB, and color alpha. So those are another root variables that we need to change to make this style a little nicer. So let's go ahead and go here. So let's just copy paste those two. So I have them. And I'm sure folks watching are kind of seeing the pattern here. You essentially target the classes you want to change in your live version, come into your custom CSS, apply those changes, see them rendered, and then as the last step, we're going to export those CSS variables to our Webflow project so that when we publish, those styles are applied. So hopefully that makes sense. So custom CSS, let's go. These are the two. I'm just pasting them here. So I want AA overlay RGB to be white, if I'm not mistaken. So let's go over to Figma. Let's make sure. So it's here, 255, 95% is what we're aiming for. So 255, 255. And overlay alpha is going to be 0.95. Awesome. Okay, boom. Let's save and close. Now we see that little styling in the back. It's looking really nice. And let's maybe put some text in the back just so we see what that looks like. Let's put yeah, we can see, right? We can see what it's doing to that text in the back, which is very similar to what we have here. Okay, so I think we are pretty pretty much done on this kind of search bar. That's as close as I'll get to this. The only thing I will say is that this looks way bolder than the text I have here. So if I go into here, if I go inspect, let's see if I'm able to change this Airtable or the text I type to be much darker. Yeah, thank you, Matthew. This is all thanks to you, by the way. I feel bad because you showed me how to do this yesterday, and I feel like I'm showing what you taught me, and I feel like you are so much more advanced than me. So I feel like I've stolen a little bit of what you taught, and now I'm teaching it a little bit. So if we have text here, font is inherent. So I wonder if there's so I can just inspect this. Okay, so it is coming from here. So I have the text color. Let me see if I can just filter on text. So height is being search input height. That's the height of the whole class. Background is none. That's all good. Do I have something in the root around text size? Font. So maybe let me see what we're using here. Maybe I can just override to say I want demi bold, which looks maybe 600 font weight. This would be 700. So let's override the input to take font weight 600. I think that'll be a good first step. Let's see, weight. And if we go back to the input, font size, font family, font height. There's no concept of weight. So maybe I can just set a font. Okay, right here, font weight. Maybe if I put that to, if I can just font weight. Can't target that nicely. Let's just set it in our custom CSS and see what that does. Oh, but we can't, we'll see the search AATT maybe change. Let's see. So we're gonna try some stuff out here. Custom CSS. I want to target AA input. AA input. And then I want the let's space it, font weight. And I said 600. Let's try that. Now I don't know if this will render because I don't know if that search AATT uses that. Let me just see if this works. There we go, save and close. Okay, yeah, we do see it. Okay, so that's what I want. So it's much more bold. It's much closer to this. And I think with that, I'm feeling comfortable with the first part. So we've got about 10 minutes here, and let's start the second part, which is styling the results. So here, the first thing we notice when we look at the results is that, let me actually look at the results here. So we have the streams here. That's actually coming from the embed that we created with Chuck. So we'll actually have to remove that in the React code that we implement. So I won't do that now. But then there's also the hover, which doesn't seem to be the same shade of gray. Now, never did I think I would go on a stream and say the words, I don't think it's the same shade of gray, but that is where we are. So here, I'm not sure how to identify this. Oh, no, it's going to click on it. So it's going to go there. Let me do that again. So Airtable. How do I identify? So let's inspect. So this is on AA. Wait, let me try to find. Okay, here we go. So we have a panel layout. a source header, a list. There we go. Yes, Colleen, I work with a lot of people who, unlike me, care about shades of gray, and I'm looking forward to learn from them about how they distinguish all those shades of gray. Oh no. Let's find that again. Sorry, I lost myself here. Let's inspect. Let's go back here. Actually, I can just inspect this. Okay. Here. So that's a link item ID. And here, I should have a hover. I'm not sure how to check a hover. Oh, .hov. So I want hover. Selected or focus. Focus visible. Hover, I think, is good. Oh, is it on outline equal 1? Oh, here we go. Hover, is that it? No. Okay, I'm not sure how to change that hover item. I'm guessing this just changes the background color. So I see selected becomes true. Okay, I see that area selected equal true right there on A item. Okay, interesting. So when I hover over, I see that background color goes selected color RGB and selected color alpha. So I need to change those in the root. Okay, I think we might figure this out. Okay, I wasn't expecting to. Okay, so I need to change those in the root to this right here. So let me just try to find those again. Those AA selected color RGB. So let me go into the root, which was, I think, the first thing we implemented. Selected. Oh, it's not going to search in the code, is it? Selected, here we go. Selected color RGB and selected color alpha. Let me just make sure those two match. So RGB color. Yeah, that is exactly right. So we then go back to our custom CSS and update those in the root. And what we want our hover to be is 237. 237. Let's go here. Oh, it's all 237. Okay. 237, 237. And then finally, our is 100%. Alpha. I find that surprising that it's 100%, but. And I don't know if we're going to be able to see what that looks like until we implement on the website, because I don't have a hover state here. Now, I wonder if I could change that. Let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. So I have to go to A item, ID autocomplete, and just set area selected equal true. So if I go into my HTML embed, and I go here and I search for area selected. So let's set this to true. And then I have my hover, and this looks a little bit lighter and a little bit closer to what we have here. So that is what we wanted. Nice. All right, I'm gonna give myself some confetti. Nice. I deserve some. That was unexpected. Awesome. Yeah, cool. Okay, but there's a lot more to change. Now that I'm getting into this, I'm realizing just how much there is to change, right? Because now we see in the embed that it's like we've got some border issues here, right? So I'm also realizing that we've got about 5 minutes here, and I do want to show you how to implement this on a live website. So we can keep going, right? So the next step would be to remove the border radius here, similar to what we had done before. Add some spacing, remove the little bar on the right, And I think with all of that, we'd be pretty close. One issue I'm having is like the image isn't sized properly. That's also something we can fix in the actual original code we did with Chuck. And change the style of the text as well. So you'll notice that this one has a much bolder text at the top, but that's relatively simple. You'll just have to target item content body, item content title. Make that a larger font weight, and then the description a smaller font weight. Now that I'm saying, I'm like, I should just do it. But I want to show what the live outcome is of all the work that we've done. So our goal now is that when we republish that page, it comes with these styles that we've included. So let's go to custom CSS. So all we need to do, there's a few options here. I think we can include this in the body of the pages where our Algolia search is, or we can add them to the whole site. I'm going to propose to add them to the whole site, primarily because I think Algolia search is going to be pretty much on every single site in my website. So let's go to project settings. Let's go into custom code. And so I have this style. Let's go ahead and this is the head code. I want, oh, could I? Yeah, I could include style in the head. Yeah, that makes sense. I think so. Hopefully this works. If not, we'll embed it in the page itself. So I'm adding this style to you. So let's save those changes. Let's go back into the designer. Fingers crossed here, folks. Let's go into Algolia 2. Let's publish to selected domains. All right. Good time to take a sip of tea. Look at that. Oh wait, no, it's okay. We should actually go not on this page because this page just has the HTML. We should refresh this page. I was gonna celebrate real quick there. Okay, let's click this. Okay, it doesn't seem to be working. And I'm wondering why now. So let me go into the inspect. Let's go into the head. And let's see if that code is there. So we do not, I don't see it. Interesting. Let me go into, oh, there's a style here. No, that's not it. Okay, maybe just refresh again. Okay, here we go. Style. Text. I have a style tag now. No, that was the first one we already had. Okay, so now we have this style. So my hope here is that now if I click on it, because I see the style. Doesn't seem to be working. So let's do one more thing. Let's actually embed this style. Instead of embedding it in the head, let's embed it on the page itself that we're publishing. So this page is my home page. Right, so let's go to my new home page. I told you there was a 75% chance this doesn't work. That's the wrong page. Let's go to home new. Let's go into settings here. Home new into settings, and in custom code, I need to load it after the Algolia script. So the Algolia, oh, so I can just do an HTML embed. So this HTML embed is in the header. So I need to go ahead and add a new HTML embed that is later. So I'm going to put it at the bottom of my page. So this one, it inputs in the new navbar. So we're going to have another HTML embed. And then we're just going to paste that code, save and close. Right. So it's running before Algolia, so it's getting overridden, which is unfortunate, but this should work. So I've got the HTML embed here, which comes after we've run the new navbar. So let's publish this. So this will only work on the home page, and we'll have to do that for every page we have Algolia on. I'm sure there's a better way of doing that, maybe in the footer. I'm not sure. Let's try it after. Let's see. We've got 2 minutes here. The Algolia script is in the nav itself, Matthew. So I have a component, which is my nav, and all of the code for Algolia is in that HTML embed. Okay, well, this works actually, because now we have it like that. Yay! This is awesome, actually. I'm pretty proud of this. This looks so much better than it did 45 minutes ago. Let's look at some Webflow. Okay, this is a confetti. Good job to us. Good job to Matthew and everyone. Appreciate you sticking through me. All right, so I will think about how to make this a little better. I think there's a way of maybe embedding it in the footer. That way, it's always there. But yeah, that is how you style a Algolia Instant Search in Webflow, using Webflow itself and the CMS embeds. A little bit of a niche stream this week. Hopefully, this was a learning moment for some of you, at least. It was definitely a lot of fun for me. It's good to be solo streaming again sometimes. And I'm really happy with the progress that we did over the last 50 minutes. And yeah, super excited to, launch this new redesigned website, which has, put a lot of work into it. So huge thanks to FinSuite for designing it and implementing some of it. And yeah, really excited to show off all the work that went in. And now it's going to have a nice little Algolia search on it. So thanks, Matthew. Thanks, Colleen. Thanks to everyone who watched. If you're watching in the future, thank you for watching again. Congrats on making it to the end of this video. Hopefully you now know how to style an Algolia instant search in Webflow. So I will see you back here next week where Carol will be on and teaching us Zapier. So she couldn't make it. We had a scheduling issue for today, but she'll be back next week. Super excited to see you all back here same time next week. Thank you again for joining and have a great week, and hope you automate all the things. Bye, y'all. Have a great week.